You know that feeling where you've studied for hours and you still get the same Series 3 National Commodities Futures Exam questions wrong? Yeah, let's fix that today. Most people fail because they treat this like a math test instead of a logic test. We're going to tear down the myths about margin, the lies about hedging, and the regulatory traps that catch even the smartest pros. By the end of this, you'll see the market the way the examiners do. Let's get to work. Listen, the Series 3 isn't just about memorizing rules. It's about understanding why the rules exist to keep the gears of global commerce turning. Let's start slow and build that foundation. Ready? Okay, let's clear the air on the most fundamental part of the futures world. People get this wrong because they compare it to stocks, but futures margin is a completely different animal. Right, quick note, you'll hear people say that margin in futures is just like margin in stocks, a partial payment on the asset. The truth is, it's actually a performance bond. Think of it like a security deposit on an apartment. You aren't buying the apartment with that deposit, you're just proving you have the skin in the game to cover potential damages. In futures, those damages are daily price swings. Why does this myth persist? Because the word margin is used for both, but in futures there's no loan and no interest. What I see students do is try to calculate interest on a futures position. Don't do that. There's no borrowed money here. There's a myth that you only get a margin call when your account hits zero. In reality, you hit the maintenance level, and that's the trigger. Why do we have this? It's the clearinghouse's way of making sure they never actually lose money. Let's think about this differently. Imagine you're at a casino, and the pit boss says you have to keep at least $100 on the table at all times. If you drop to $99, you have to bring it back up to the original amount, not just back to $100. That's the part that trips people up, the call to initial. Students often think they only need to top off back to the maintenance level. Nope, you go all the way back to the start. People believe that gains and losses are only real when you close the position. The fact is, in futures, every single day is a settlement. It's called marking to market. While we're on this, quick context, this started so the exchange doesn't get stuck with a massive bill if someone goes bust after a week of losses. Every night, money is physically moved from the loser's account to the winner's account. The thing nobody tells you is that your unrealized gain is actually cash. You can withdraw the very next morning. It's as real as it gets. Why do people miss this? Because they're used to the buy and hold mentality of the stock market where nothing is real until you sell. Right, quick reset. Let's talk about hedging. Most people think hedging is a magic shield that makes risk disappear. It's not. The myth is that a hedge will perfectly offset every penny of loss in the cash market. The truth? A perfect hedge is about as rare as a unicorn. Why? Because of basis. Basis is just the difference between the local cash price and the futures price. Think of it like this. You're hedging fuel costs for an airline using crude oil futures. Does crude oil move exactly like jet fuel in Atlanta? Close, but not exactly. I once had a student named Sarah who was so frustrated because her hedge lost money on both sides. She didn't realize she was fighting basis risk. You aren't eliminating risk, you're just swapping price risk for basis risk. You'll hear that producers hedge because they want to make a profit on the futures contract. Actually, they don't care about the futures profit. They want to lock in a selling price for their crop. Imagine a farmer planting wheat in May. He's terrified the price will crash by harvest in September, so he sells futures now. If the price drops, his crop is worth less, but his futures position makes a profit. The two cancel out. The wrong answer is tempting because it's easy to think of selling as a bearish bet. But for a farmer, selling futures is actually a conservative move to protect his livelihood. It's about sleep insurance, not speculation. So, watch this. The myth is that only farmers hedge. The fact is, the people buying the wheat, like a bread factory, hedge too. They're long hedgers. Why? Because they're scared prices will go up. If you're a cereal company, you need to buy corn in 6 months. If corn prices skyrocket, your profit margins are toast. So, you buy futures now. If prices go up, your futures profit pays for the more expensive corn. It's a simple substitution. What I see students do is get confused about who is who. Just ask, what is this person afraid of? If they're afraid of rising prices, they go long, period. Stay with me here because this is where the easy points are won or lost. Regulations sound boring, but they're the rules of the road that keep you out of jail. So, watch this. People think the NFA and CFTC are the same thing. They aren't. The CFTC is the government, the feds. The NFA is the industry's own self-regulatory group. Think of the CFTC as the police department and the NFA as the neighborhood watch that actually has the power to kick you out of the neighborhood. Why does this matter? Because the NFA handles the day-to-day stuff like testing and ethics. If the exam asks who registers you, it's technically the CFTC, but they delegate the processing to the NFA. It's a weird handoff that catches people off guard. Just remember, CFTC equals law, NFA equals membership. Now, here's the thing. You'll hear people use these terms interchangeably, but they're distinct roles. A CPO, commodity pool operator, is like a mutual fund manager for futures. They take people's money and pool it. A CTA, commodity trading advisor, is more like a personal coach or consultant who gives specific advice. Here's the thing. A CTA might not even touch the money. They just tell you what to do with it. The CPO always has the money. If the question mentions pooling or combining funds, your brain should immediately scream CPO. Students often mix these up because both require registration, but the pool is the giveaway. The myth is that you can just give a client a brochure and start trading. No way. You need a formal disclosure document and it has a shelf life. It can't be older than 9 months. Why 9 months? Because the futures market moves at light speed. A year-old performance record is ancient history. While we're on this, quick detour. Did you know these documents must include any disciplinary actions against the firm? The regulators want the skeletons in the closet front and center. If you see a question about how long a document is valid, don't pick 12 months just because that's a standard year. It's 9. Always 9. Okay, now here's the thing about options. People make this way harder than it needs to be with Greek formulas. Let's strip it down to the logic. The myth is that an option's price is just a random number. It's actually two numbers added together. Intrinsic value is real money. It's how much the option is in the monies. Time value is hope money. It's the premium for the chance that the price might move later. Why do people struggle? Because they forget that at expiration, hope dies. Time value goes to 0. What's left is just the intrinsic value. If you're out of the money at the end, your option is worth exactly 0. I see students try to calculate time value on the final day. Don't. It's gone. It's like a movie ticket after the film has ended. Here's the exam day version. You'll hear that delta is just a math variable. The truth is, delta is a proxy for the probability of the option finishing in the money. If an option has a delta of 0.5, it's like a coin flip. If it's 0.9, it's almost a sure thing. Why does this matter for the exam? Because it tells you how much the option price will move when the underlying future moves $1. If delta is 0.5 and wheat goes up $1, your option goes up 50 cents. It's a speed limit. Students often think the option should move dollar for dollar with the future. It rarely does unless it's deep in the money. Now, here's the thing. People think writing or selling options is free money. It's actually the most dangerous game in the market. When you buy a call, your risk is limited to what you paid. When you write a call, your risk is technically infinite. Why? Because there's no limit to how high a price can go. Think of it like being an insurance company. You collect a small premium, but if the house burns down, you're on the hook for the whole thing. The exam loves to ask about the maximum loss for an uncovered option writer. The answer is always unlimited. Don't let them trick you with a specific dollar amount. Right, let's talk about the actual mechanics of trading. A lot of people fail because they don't understand what happens after they hit the buy button. Here's the exam day version. The myth is that a stop-loss order guarantees you'll get out at your price. The fact is, a stop order is just a trigger. Once the price hits your stop, it turns into a market order. If the market is crashing, you might get filled way below your stop price. A limit order, on the other hand, says this price or better. Why do people get confused? Because they want the protection of a stop, but the price of a limit. You can't have both without risk. What I see students do is assume a stop and a limit are the same. They aren't. One guarantees execution, the other guarantees price. Right, quick note. You'll hear that MIT orders are the same as stop orders. Close, but they're opposites. A stop order is used to limit a loss. An MIT order is used to take a profit. Imagine your long wait at $5. You put a stop at $4.9 to protect yourself. You put an MIT at $5.2 to cash out if it hits your target. Why does this myth persist? Because both become market orders once triggered, but the direction is what matters. If you see buy below the current price or sell above it, that's an MIT. It's for the person who thinks the market will hit a level and then they want out immediately. Right, quick note, people believe spread trading is just for experts. It's actually just buying one month and selling another. The myth is that it's twice as risky because you have two positions. Actually, it's usually less risky. Why? Because the 2 months usually move together. If the whole market drops, your short leg makes money while your long leg loses it. They cushion each other. Let's think about this differently. It's like betting on the difference in height between two brothers rather than betting on how tall one will grow. The difference is much more stable. Students often miss the reduced margin aspect of spreads. Because they're less risky, the exchange lets you put up less cash. Quick reset. We're in the home stretch now. This is the part that scares everyone, the idea of actual physical commodities showing up at your door. Here's the exam day version. The biggest myth in the Series 3 is that if you don't close your position, a truck will dump 5,000 bushels of corn on your lawn. The truth is, delivery happens at license warehouses via warehouse receipts. You don't get corn, you get a piece of paper that says you own corn in a silo in Nebraska. Why does this matter? Because the exam asks about notice days. If you don't want to deal with that paper, you must offset before the first notice day. What I see students do is panic about the logistics. Don't. Just know that most speculators, over 97%, offset their positions and never see a warehouse receipt in their lives. You'll hear that every contract has a physical warehouse. Not true. Some things, like the S&P 500 futures or Eurodollars, are cash settled. There's no physical thing to deliver. You can't deliver 500 stocks or a percentage point. At the end of the month, the exchange just looks at the final price and does one last mark to market. The winners get cash, the losers pay cash, and the contract disappears. Why do people miss this? They try to find delivery rules for indices. There aren't any. It's just a final accounting entry. It's the cleanest way to trade. Here's the exam day version. The myth is that as long as you have the money, you can buy as much as you want. Wrong. The regulators have position limits to prevent anyone from cornering the market. Imagine if one person bought all the onions in the world, they could charge whatever they wanted. The CFTC sets these limits to keep the markets fair. However, here's the reframe: bona fide hedges are exempt. If you're a massive bread company and you actually need a billion bushels of wheat, the limit doesn't apply to you. The limit is only there to stop speculators from getting too big for their boots. Students often forget that hedges get a free pass here. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the reality of margin as a performance bond to the truth about how hedgers actually use the market to sleep at night. Remember, the Series 3 isn't trying to trick you, it's trying to ensure you understand the risks. If you can distinguish between a trigger and a guarantee, or a pool and an advisor, you're already halfway there. Keep that coach's mindset, stay disciplined, stay focused. Right now, before you click anything else, go to FraserExam.com and try 5 free Series 3 National Commodities Futures Exam practice questions. 5. That's the challenge. Then come back and let me know how it went. Like, subscribe, see you in the next one. Go get those 5 right.